Good thing we're so nice to each other, huh? What are you doing? Oh yeah. Oh, here we are. Hey everybody. We're trying to figure out all the bells and whistles on YouTube. We still don't know what they all are, so thanks for everyone. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take that 40. We didn't realize we were even live for 48 seconds. I'm like, wait, it says we're live, but I know we're such boomers. Though that's so funny. How's everybody doing this morning? We are both like straight up exhausted today. It is a snowy day in Utah.
Yep, we got a little bit of snow flurries coming down.
Yeah, it's a snowy day in Utah, and it is cold, and I wish I wasn't out of bed yet. I won't even lie, I still have a lot of bedhead going on.
I've got my
so
Disney on.
Our grandbabies are in Disneyland today.
Yep. So I'm celebrating by getting my warm little hoodie on, or my little jacket on. It's keeping me warm.
We've been getting updates from our daughter-in-law. So cute. They're the cutest. I don't know what's better, taking your own kids on an adventure that you know will like make them so happy and so excited, or watching your child take their children on an adventure that will make, you know.
It was both.
I know.
I enjoyed doing it, but yeah.
We really did.
Watching them create memories too.
Oh my gosh, it's been so cute watching my son. My oldest son has two children, and they're both out in Disneyland today. Well, yesterday and today. So the text messages started popping through, and pictures started popping through first thing this morning, and so adorable. We have the cutest little grand girls. So thank you guys. Thanks everybody for being here. I know a lot of you guys are watching that chat that we did with Lee last night. She is so amazing. If anyone has a TikTok and wants to follow her, I put the link to her TikTok in the description of that video. So feel free. She's got a lot of followers on TikTok. She's not as big on YouTube, but she definitely has a lot of followers on TikTok and does really good. Why am I not live right here? Oh, I didn't get a note. Oh, here we go.
Because you're on the old one we started.
I know. We're on the one we started for 48 seconds. So, oh my gosh, Carolyn, I'm sorry. Broke your leg? Oh, that's horrible. I think that's hard at this time of year too, when you already have a little bit of seasonal depression going on.
Want to get out and walk.
Yeah, you need to get outside and be out in the weather, and you can't because you have a broken leg, and then you've got snow all over the place. So I can imagine that would be really, really tough. Somebody says right in the middle of your chat with Lee when the live popped up. Oh, yay. Yeah, she's so great. She was one of the very first TikTokers I ever started following on TikTok, because she was so great with just the way she is with everybody. I love her, the energy about her and her demeanor. She's just really, really like level-headed in the way that she thinks, and she's just really like just sweet. I just really appreciate her viewpoint on things. But today we thought we'd go live today. Cory did a deep dive. We talk about this a little bit in the video with Lee, but Cory did a deep dive on one of the, everyone kind of brought up the 69 episode or thing with Robin and Cody. I have a little bit of a stiff neck, so I'm going to turn a little bit softer, but with Cody and Robin and Christine. So we went and watched that. We went and found that video and we watched it. And then it carried on a little bit, and we started watching a little bit more about when Robin was getting the kids legally, separated or signed away with their dad or whatever. I didn't stay up and watch the whole thing, but Cory did. And so, till 4 o'clock in the morning, Cory sat up watching that and had some pretty intense reactions and thoughts. We did see the part, I did stay up and see the part where they were like, oh, we got custody of, your dad's agreed to sign over his rights to you guys. So I did get to see that part, and it was emotional. One of the biggest things I think we've both said over and over and over is the children are the collateral damage in this religion. And I feel like these episodes that Cory set up and watched definitely reflected that. Go ahead.
I can't remember it's when she was, they were asking, what's his, Preston?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, to sign over custody so that Cody could adopt him. They had gone through the divorce. There was a bunch of it. It was a whole season that I watched, and it was just disturbing to me because I hadn't watched it before.
Yeah.
But some of the things that disturbed me was 3 of the 5 were in the loop of getting the divorce and getting remarried, and Christine and Janelle were just informed of that. That's
right.
What's happening. And then the farce.
That was the first really disturbing thing, is that all 5 of them should have been involved in that decision. It should not have just been the 3.
Yeah, it's just eliminating 2 people from a conversation
that directly involves them.
Yeah. And by them doing that, it proved that it didn't involve them.
It should have involved them, but it didn't, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And then when she announces it, that he has signed over custody, Dayton's looking stunned there, and he's like, I don't understand. He's confused. He doesn't understand. And for these people who are going to what they consider therapy, where they're discussing stuff that's gone on in the past and trying to heal those things, to not even be aware that a child's confused on what just happened. Okay, maybe we should pause the filming and sit down and talk to him and have an understanding of why the dad had signed over those custody rights to Cody. And then it goes on, in the AUB religion, you are sealed for time and all eternity, not only to your wives, but to any children that you guys produce, are sealed through that sealing to your eternal family, if you will. And is it Preston? Am I getting that right?
Well, he goes by David Preston, or Preston David, I think. So that's why it gets confusing.
But he was only married to Robin, probably didn't go through their sealing process.
Oh, they didn't, because they were pregnant before they got married, so they couldn't go through the polygamist temple because of that. So they were never sealed. So she never had to get a real release from him. She just had to get a legal divorce. So that's why. Yeah,
but genuinely, not only did they get a legally get the kids separated from Preston, but then also and adoption. But then they went and did the blessings, the name and the blessings, changing that and sealing all 3 of those kids to Cody and Robin and the rest of the family for time and all eternity. So not only is he doing it legally on TV for everybody to see, but he's also doing it to let the AUB people and they're writing it down and putting it in their records. They're letting the AUB people and God and all these people know that these children are no longer attached for eternity to their biological father. It's now Cody who's going to be in charge in the afterlife. And I'm like, you arrogant. But again, that's just because it's based on their belief systems. I'm no longer haven't been a part of the AUB since I was for years. I've been a part of the AUB than I was ever.
You've been away from it?
Away from it longer than I ever was a part of it. And and I'm a Gentile, or no, I'm a apostate. So
well, let's break that down, what you just said, because you went over a lot of information. So if we break it down, in the AUB, part of the principal teachings are the reason that the sealings or the releases are so important is because when you get married, you agree to, you are now covenanted and sealed to this person for all of eternity.
Yeah.
The children that you produce during that marriage they belong to both of you for all eternity. So what happens when somebody like Robin comes in and marries somebody like Cody and she's already got 3 kids? Where do those 3 kids fit into that picture? Do they get to be sealed to to David or Preston, or do they get to be with Cody in the afterlife when they all pass away? So part of the teachings is when you get remarried to somebody in the polygamist church, if you are sealed to them, your children can be sealed to them as well. Mm-hmm. But let's say, like, I know a lot of people whose husband passed when he was a good, righteous man. He just happened to die and didn't have, and then the wife remarries. So some of the teachings, it depends on, again, we said this before, AUB makes up the rules as they go along. It depends on who you talk to. A lot of people believe that if she were to remarry, she would remarry a man for time only, not for time and all eternity. And then any children that they produced in that marriage would belong to the husband who was deceased. That's how they believe it. Yeah. And so, is my mom here? Yeah. Oh, she is. Oh, hi, Mom. And so I just barely caught somebody say, hi, Mel's mom. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how that works. Now, if he wasn't a righteous man or she was never sealed to him, the woman can come into a marriage in the AUB and then be sealed to that man and then seal those children to that man. So then the biological man no longer has any mortal claim on them or any spiritual claim on those children that are produced in that. Now, there's a lot of people who don't agree with this. This is a very controversial subject in the AUB mm-hmm. because there's children who love their fathers and they don't want to be sealed to, or there's I have one mother and she was literally sealed to her parents in the Mormon temple, in the LDS mainstream Mormon temple. But when she joined the polygamist group, she was sealed to a whole different set of parents, mom and dad. So this is very controversial topic. So that kind of lays a little bit of the groundwork for what we saw in these episodes, because now they have pressured, convinced, manipulated, whatever you want to call it, these children's biological father into signing over the rights to have Cody legally adopt them. And then making a claim in their church proceedings that not only does he have a connection with them for time, but now he's claiming them for all eternity. So, right. So when you see the actual adoption, or what is it called, the adoption ceremony party that they had at their house, and Cody does a blessing, and he has Robin's stepfather Paul and a couple of other men stand up in a circle, and they give these children a blessing and a new name. So that's why they're doing that. They're giving them a new name so that they can be sealed to Cody, and I'm sure they went through the whole couple other different ceremonies regarding that too, so that they can be sealed to Cody for all time and all eternity. So they basically, and I thought that was in such poor taste that they televised that. It was just a way for Cody to just take a stab at Robin's ex. Yep. Because he was look, in my opinion, I didn't watch this. I went to bed and Cory stayed up and watched all this, but the next day he's like, you got to watch this episode. What the hell? And it was I was like, that is in such poor taste that they did that. I mean, full understanding of what they think that they're agreeing to. Yeah. And so the episode where they have the big party and then the blessings, I felt like that was just a direct it was a stab. F you to their biological dad. Now we took legal custody away from you. Now we're taking time and all eternity away from you as well. Because he never became worthy enough to go through their rituals. Right. Right. And so somebody says, do they automatically seal you in the AUB or do you have a choice? So in that process, when you are married in their temple, what the belief system is that you are now born under the covenant. Yeah. So you as a child don't need to be sealed to your parents because you're born under the covenant. Now, if you weren't married that way and you had children and then you were married later, my understanding is those children now have to be sealed to both of you. Yep. So when I was probably 13 or 14, maybe 13, we actually went through the temple and we were sealed to our parents, because when my parents got married, they didn't have a temple available. And so my parents were not married in the temple that the AUB now has. So we went and we knelt over the altar, did that kind of stuff, and were sealed to our parents at that point. So I thought it was in very, very poor taste that they televised that, of the blessing, because I just thought that that was such a jerk move to the biological father. Especially where, there are so many rumors. Now, I don't know. We haven't talked to the biological father. We don't know if he was pressured. It's just what we've seen on, we're assuming. And then what he did say, we did see on one of the episodes, he said to the kids that I don't want to do this, but I'm hearing that it's in your best interest for me to do this. So I'm going to sign over custody because it's in your best interest. And I want to do what's best for you children. So he believed that according to Aurora, she says that on one of the episodes. So there's a couple of things to unpack in this couple of different episodes of that. Yeah. Why was Aurora's reaction to that news the way that it was? She fell apart and melted in the couch and just started bawling her head off. And Dayton sat there looking so confused, like, what the hell? Like, my dad just is going to give me up. He's just going to sign my custody over to, like, and so you have multiple, and then Brianna's just sitting there like, I don't really know what's happening, but she's watching the reaction of her older siblings going, Kate, am I supposed to be upset about this? Am I supposed to be sad about this? Am I supposed to be happy? And so I just thought it was, I just thought it was really brutal. I thought those episodes were really brutal. So yeah, Cory got kind of emotional watching them.
I was just like, this is
child abuse.
Yeah.
It feels child abuse.
Why haven't they taken those kids in to have them discuss it? Or why aren't they sitting them down, helping them understand what's going on and giving them a choice? A lot of times you didn't get a choice. You thought you had a choice as a kid, but no, this is what we're doing, and you need to just go along with it. It's for your betterment in the afterlife. So
So watching. Go ahead.
It's just it's abuse.
It feels very abusive.
You're being pushed into all these directions of what they want to do for the show, for ratings, and I was disgusted with that whole episode. So
and we've been saying this since day one. The children are the collateral damage in this religion. And this is absolutely the truth when you watch these episodes. This feels like absolute. Even if it's not physical abuse, it's spiritual and emotional abuse to these children, because they don't understand what it is that is happening, that the adults all understand. They don't understand the emotional reaction from the adults. They don't understand, especially Dayton. My understanding is that Dayton is, has a little bit of autism. And so that would absolutely make sense for his reaction, because he's like, wait, what? My dad wanted to give me up? Yeah. Like, he doesn't understand that. And then to top it off, they do the blessings in front of everyone and on camera, which I just feel is in such poor taste. So, so that's been, a lot of people have been asking us if we're going to go back and watch from the beginning. And I think we are this summer. We'll try to go over it this summer.
And they're asking when we're going to start Big Love again.
I know. So what do we maybe I'll put a poll out there, and do people want us to do a Big Love rewatch or a Sister Wives start from the beginning watch? And then give our commentary on both of those. But yeah, it was the next morning I wake up and I'm like, he comes to bed at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what have you been doing? Where have you been? And he was like, and he's all emotional, and he's like, I can't believe what they've done to these kids. It's horrible.
It just takes, a lot of times it takes me back to being a kid within the AUB, just how many times we were suggested to do something and it just didn't feel right. Something's wrong here. You're not telling us the whole truth. So yeah, I never got to go through the temple like she did and get sealed to my parents, so but I am a apostate anyhow, so that unsealing would have been done with everything else that
No,
got
that's not
undone.
true. That's
So-
you. Not according to the police. That's not true. You would still be still to your parents. You just wouldn't have the, you wouldn't have the other. So now that we've kind of dumped like a lot of what's been on our mind the last few days, let me go back and read some of these questions. Let's see. Mel, does your ex have a good relationship with your oldest kids? I wouldn't say that it's a great relationship. I feel like he comes around when he needs affection and love, and then he disappears when he doesn't. And that's really hard on my kids because they don't understand that. They didn't understand that when they were little. He would disappear for like 4 or 5 months at a time, and then he would just show back up out of nowhere and then just expect like full visitation, whatever. And so that was really hard on them. And but like with us, my kids have kept their last name. I wanted them to be proud of who they were and where they came from. I had no intention of ever having Cory adopt them. We've never even discussed Cory adopting them ever. So it's never been anything that we ever felt was necessary for our family, because I really wanted my children to be proud of who they were and where they came from. And so, yeah.
Exactly. And when we got married, it was super easy to put all 3 of them on my insurance.
Yeah.
Nobody even, I'm marrying her. She has 3 children. They're all on my insurance with different last names, and nobody blinked an eye at anything.
Right.
Schools called me whenever the kids
Needed
because
something.
I was on the paperwork as their dad. So yeah, they were calling me and discussing things when my kids got in trouble, so or I needed to come pick them up. So.
If I wasn't available, typically they would call me first because I was the primary legal guardian. I gained full legal guardianship of my children, full legal custody. That was my only thing I fought for in the divorce, was 100% legal custody. I didn't want my ex-husband to have any ability to mess with their lives any more than he already had. And so I fought for that tooth and nail. It took me 18 months of going through the court system to be able to get that, but we did it, and $20,000 later in 18 months, it happened. So yeah.
But I didn't give them a blessing.
No, you didn't give them a blessing. We did not give them a new name. We did not give them any sort of blessings like that. No, I want them to be proud of their heritage and where they came from and who they came from. Even if he's not proud of himself, I want my children to be proud of where they came from. Yeah, somebody says, Cory looks a little tired. We are. Today we are on a struggle bus. I won't even lie. We're both a little bit tired. But somebody says, that was my thoughts exactly. Should have been approved by all the wives. So that is one of my biggest beefs about this religion and about this patriarchy system too, is the fact that these people and these men make decisions with 1 or 2 wives and don't tell anyone else. And it literally affects every one of their lives. They all should have the right to know.
Well, what I find interesting is if Janelle or Christine or I feel like that in these episodes, if they have something, they bring it to the whole family. Then they have Janelle has said that. It was everybody had to weigh in on everything.
Yeah.
And yet.
So financial decisions, everyone has to weigh in on, but yet legality of who's married, nobody gets, everyone doesn't get that option?
Or
doesn't that feel...
There's a divorce. Well, that's none of their business. It's between Cody and I. Great. Boom, divorce. Okay, now I'm marrying Robin. Great. Oh, hey, we'll just let you know because we're...
Yeah, we'll get back to you when that's finished.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that legally affects me.
Are we going to discuss that? No.
Yeah.
No, this is Robin. Don't talk bad about her. We're doing this. It's none of your lady's business.
Right.
But when it comes to a decision that the other ladies are making, then it has to be everybody's
business.
So.
And why do Robin and Mary get to make those decisions on their own? Why are they not... Why are those two just getting together and not saying, hey, let's pull a family meeting together? Somebody says, Cory, we would like to know what it's like as a young boy growing up. We understand that girls are wed at a very young age, but what about the boys? Who do you wed of all these young girls that are gone? So we're actually going to make a podcast around this whole topic. So we'll shelf that for right now, unless you want to add something to it.
Well, it was just highly suggested by my dad that I should marry And when I got married at 29, I was still so immature. I really was.
You really were.
I
won't
really
even lie. He really
became
was.
mature very quickly. And I didn't want to get married at 18, 19. I was leaving. At 18, I packed up everything that I owned in my car, and I drove down here to Salt Lake and worked down here and lived with my aunt, my mom's little sister. So I did not want to get married. That was the last thing I wanted.
Until I showed up.
I wanted to live life. So no.
Well, and what was great too is it was such a hard transition for my children. My ex-husband made it really hard. We had police involved. He went to jail a whole bunch of times. And what was great is that Cory was so immature and childlike. And so my kids were just like glued to him because he would get on the floor and he would play with them and he would talk to them and he would interact with them. And so that was one of the things that really, I think, you know, when I got divorced, I was like, I'm 25, right? I'm like, I'm never going to marry anyone under the age of 40 because these men are so immature. But then I know Cory, and there was times where I was just like, I don't think I can do this. He is so immature. But you matured quickly. You weren't immature. You were just very childlike, and I took that for immaturity. And you were immature in the fact that you didn't like know how to like run a, you know what I mean, a family. But you picked up on it so quick, and so I don't feel like, you know what I mean, you blended in so fast. My kids very much benefited from his childlikeness when we first got married.
We just enjoyed similar movies and games.
All the Disney movies. He's in there playing video games and Disney movies with my kids on the ground. It was great. Let's see. Okay, so a lot of comments about Dayton, and the way they manipulated it. It was really sad. It was really a hard couple of episodes to watch.
Yeah, I'll go in later about pressure from. It was mostly pressure from my dad about getting married young, and it doesn't matter if you're in love and I'm like, well, it does to me. So, yep, I'm not getting married. I'm not starting a family. I was very resistant about having kids at a young age. I wanted to enjoy my life. I'd been working since I was 10 or 11 on a farm. I wanted to go out and see what the world was like, so I did.
So somebody says if a child was baptized in the AUB and as an adult left and is baptized LDS, is their sealing to their bio parents who are in the AUB canceled? So there's so many. It really, again, depends on who you talk to. Some people would say yes. Some people would say no. Once that sealing's in place, it's always in place unless like the prophet or somebody comes in and releases that sealing, somebody with the proper authority. And because the AUB does not believe that the Mormon Church has the proper authority, then they would say no.
It's like you're just taking on a higher order. You've already been given a higher order, and then you're just taking on a lower baptism. And then as you mature, they're hoping for you. In fact, a lot of them are suggesting that you go the young men go into the LDS church, find a wife that you can convince then to come back into the AUB, and then you qualify for a second wife because you went and got a wife from outside.
So somebody says, so Cody's other children are not his for eternity, and it's just for his level of eternity, and the other kids mean nothing because the other children mean nothing essentially. So in the AUB, because he married Mary in the temple and under the covenant of plural marriage, and then he married Janelle that way, and then he married Christine that way, none of those kids needed to be sealed to him. And Ariella and Solomon did not need to be sealed to him because he was married to Robin under that covenant as well.
And the interesting part is each one of those kids would have been given that same blessing that they gave the three kids there. At birth, or 8 days after they were born, they were given a name,
father's blessing with a name
and a blessing, exactly like that, as infants. And so they just didn't televise that. They didn't televise that for well, maybe they did. I just haven't watched when
yeah.
Saul and
Or truly, yeah, because
when
they've
any
had
of them-
3 babies since they've
Yeah.
done the show, so they could have.
yeah, they could have.
We
I'll
just
have to
haven't
go
seen
back
it.
and look. Maybe he does give them a name and a blessing, but by him giving them that priesthood name and blessing, he's sealing them under the covenant into his family. So,
Right. So he would not have to do the same blessing for them. The only children that needed that, like, sealing or, you know, bringing them to the family would be the older 3 children that he did not.
now he's adopted.
Right, because they were born. So there's a couple of different controversial ways that people see that too. Like, my mom was the second wife. I was the first child born into polygamy. Cory was the first child born into polygamy. His mom was the second wife. And so we were considered born under the covenant of that. And so that's why I actually probably should ask my mom later on why we needed to be sealed to them, because we were technically, you know, born under the covenant of plural marriage. And so I'm not sure why we had to do that when we got older, but maybe it was just like let's make sure it's done right. I don't know. But yeah, that's why those 3 older kids. Now, my dad married I've talked about this a lot. There was a man that left like 12 wives and 96 children, something around that number. And those wives went and married other men. One of those wives married my dad. And so her children were all 3 older than me. I have a sister who was 4 hours older than me. We were born on the same day. And so those children, they had to be sealed to my dad. And their mother was sealed to my dad later on too. And because that man broke his covenant and left and abandoned all of his wives were I don't want to say, because I feel like I say redispersed, and it kind of sounds a little bit gross, but that's kind of how it is. But yeah. Okay, let's see if we've got any other questions. How long were you guys divorced for? Did you just keep going to counseling together after the divorce and worked it out that way? Yeah, we were divorced for 2 years. We were 1 month shy of 2 years we were divorced. And we got married quicker because our oldest son was getting married, and we wanted to have that energy of, wholeness or complete, like, marriage together. And so we actually didn't tell anybody. We just went and did it. And Cory's like, dang it, we should have waited 1 more month. So we had a 2-year anniversary. I was like, really? That's what you want to do? But we did keep, like, I don't know that we went to actual therapists, but we started doing, that's when we started. We
did marriage counseling.
Yeah, we did marriage counseling, but we did that through a non-denominational Christian church, and we went and saw some of their marriage counselors. And I was really opposed to seeing a therapist or a counselor that had any religious ties, but it actually worked out good for us, I think. But yeah, I feel like during that 2 years, it was like I got really dark and really lost during that 2 years and had to really find my way out. And I think that's when we started plant medicines, and I think that really helped us to find our way out of some of that darkness too. That was a really dark time, and we're making a video on that whole thing too. Mel and Cory, I love your insights and that you were in the middle of it. You know the players are the people and are the people around them. Both of you are awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Robin wrote about the lightning bolt in the book they had published. Yeah, I get it. I get that, that's how people describe, like, when they know about somebody, they just know about somebody. But I think it is hard when you know that about someone else's husband. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think each one of those are little check-off marks for me that they were justifying behaviors that they might have had or done before. They were actually married in the AUB temple, and so when they got questioned at the AUB temple, hey, I don't know, little white lie to get through and get sealed is just fine. So
right.
He did it the first time. He absolutely didn't tell the AUB leadership about his tryst in college. So
no, he did not.
Nice little white lie. That's a surprise to everybody, including his second and third wife. Stuff that he just that wasn't their information to know. They're
So
on a
that's
need to know basis, and they did not need to know that.
That's what I think is such. This man is. I'm sorry. He's a straight up asshole. Because I don't even know if we can say that online. Based on what we've seen, like he took that dig at Christine and Janelle by telling him about the tryst. I feel like that was absolutely just a dig just to hurt them. And then takes the dig at Preston, takes it, by giving the kids the blessing and the new name on TV. Somebody says on here, it's important, don't make your kids ashamed of their parentage.
I know. Absolutely.
And I feel like Robin and Cody took every opportunity they could to, make these children ashamed. You wonder why Aurora has the emotional blockage that she has now?
Yeah. And I remember when we first came together as a family, the last thing any of us wanted to do was mess up our kids. We knew that divorce was hard.
Yeah.
We lived it. I mean, you call us, we grew up in polygamy, which a lot of times I feel like is just a version of divorce where you get to see your bio dad every 7 days or
it's
once
true.
a week or what have you. And so we didn't want to mess up. And so you were reading through some of the stuff. We took the kids to counseling.
Yeah.
We had the kids
in therapy
discussing, and had a family counselor telling us, hey, these are super important, is that you keep a relationship, and you three need to co-parent. And so we did. We worked as hard as we could to try to co-parent with the bio dad and my brother husband. And so we tried to co-parent and bring up the kids as healthy as we can.
And that's one of the reasons why my ex spent so many holidays at our home, is because it was the safest place for them.
He didn't have a place set up, and so it's like, nope, come on over.
Yeah, he never. We've been divorced for over 25 years now, and he, in that 25 years, committed to a 6-month apartment one time, and that was it. Other than that, he's just been a vagabond, and he's just lived wherever he could. He's never had a solid place to live, and so that was really hard to send the kids with him, because I never knew where they were going to stay. And so I didn't like to let him take the kids very often for that reason, because it was like, what hotel are you going to stay at? Where, and so it was really sketchy. And it wasn't until, our kids didn't have cell phones till they were 14. And I think our oldest got his first cell phone when he was 14. And then I was too afraid to let them drive with him, because he, has a lot of, experience with alcohol. And so it was really scary for me to let my children ride with him. And it wasn't until my oldest got his driver's license that I felt safer allowing them to go. But we still didn't want to talk about these things in front of the kids, because we didn't want to, we didn't want them to feel ashamed of where they came from. What?
They're grown adults now, so.
And now they see it.
We
don't have to say anything anymore. Now they see it. And it's really, it is very.
Thanks.
Oh, the sound is very good today. Yay, thank you. Yeah, we've been working hard on
these things.
We're trying to get this thing down. Let's see. So happy that Christine found David. He seems perfect for her. They really do. I really appreciated the interaction between the two of them.
I find it interesting too, because as Christina's marrying David, the other kids are saying, well, is he going to be our new dad? I don't want him to be replacing Cody, you know what I mean? And that's so interesting that she's listening to that. She's communicating with the kids. No, David's somebody that I'm in love with. He's not going to be a replacement. You guys can talk to Cody, still see Cody. She's doing it way different than Cody and Robin did to the other. If Cody was treated by David, he would be upset if David was doing some of the things he did.
If David did to Cody what he did to Preston, he would be so angry.
He would be.
So somebody says,
wouldn't work, because David doesn't have the correct priesthood to.
So David can't boss Cody around. Cody's got one up on him.
The best priesthood there ever was.
Somebody says they didn't do a blessings on TV. They did in this particular episode. I can't remember what season it was. It was, so many people sent us. It was season 9.
Are they saying they didn't do the blessings of the littler kids?
Oh, they might be, yeah. They did the blessing,
Okay.
the name change blessing.
Because I haven't seen
Robin's,
that.
Yeah, we haven't seen that.
I've just seen the Robin's one. So.
So he asked for release and asked for his blessings to be taken away. Thank you guys. I now understand what some of those blessings might have been. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody says, when my husband left the Mormon religion, he asked for a release and also asked for his blessings to be taken away. Thank you guys. I now understand what some of those blessings might have been. So yeah, these are that's why it's so like left for interpretation for people a lot, when it's not supposed to be, but they try to follow as closely to what the teachings of the foundational teachings of the Mormon Church are. But
they change them all the time for their own convenience. So.
They do. So
it depends on who the priesthood holder is and what he thinks should be done. And then he would be pissed if somebody did the exact same thing to him. So
the hypocrisy is unreal with these men. Somebody says, you've mentioned that Robin would easily be in the AUB, would easily married again in the AUB. Would she still be a desirable after 2 failed marriages, a ratio thing? So my dad's current favorite wife had 2 failed marriages and 3 children when she married my dad. So yeah, she would definitely now carry on with what you were going to say.
The failed marriages would be
their fault. It's the men's fault. It's not her fault.
Well, she has been she's been bending over backwards for her sister wives. She's been doing everything. She's been putting out a narrative of what an amazing sister wife, an amazing righteous woman within the AUB looks like in all of her words.
That's a whole lot of sarcasm coming out of Cory right there.
And so, yes, she would be welcomed in, because these men technically need to have 7 wives sealed to them. If they can get 7 wives, a quorum of wives sealed to them, then they could actually move into leadership positions within the AUB. So you have to have a quorum of wives. They don't all have to be in harmony all at the same time. And so, yeah, these men would marry her. If she has money, great. If not, they would still marry her and put her in a nice little trailer again.
And she does come with a nice hefty half of all Cody's assets. So
yeah, she signed on to everything.
That right there makes her the most desirable out of all of the women, because any other guy, if Cody can't be a good steward over his finances, that guy's going to be a good steward over his...
These guys have been sitting there talking about... Some people probably wouldn't marry her with that doll collection. That's a bit creepy. So...
Expensive and creepy. Yeah, we did see some of that, and I know nothing about that, and...
I have no clue.
We just watched a little bit on Reddit last night about that, so we haven't done any looking into that at all. But yeah, she would very easily be very, especially, I feel like it's the women, and my mom is on here and she can attest to this. The women who have to go out there and proclaim what an amazing sister wife they are usually the worst ones. They are usually the hardest ones and the most selfish and the most self-centered. And yet they proclaim on a regular basis that they are the most wonderful and that all they do is love their sister wives and want what's best for their sister wives. But they don't actually find out, hey, what is best for my sister wife? They assume that they know, and then they do whatever it is that they want to do. And yeah, those are the ones. If you're a great sister wife, you don't have to go out there and proclaim it to the world that you are. Your sister wives will tell people for you.
Yep.
Let's see. Yes, talk about the AUB members having dual memberships in the LDS Church. So they do have, there are a lot of people that will have dual memberships, and as long as the church doesn't find out about it, then they don't get excommunicated from the church. But if the church finds out about it, that's an instant excommunication.
Yeah.
The church doesn't tolerate that or put up with that.
My mother was part of the LDS Church, and then when she married my dad, I think she had 3 of us kids, me and my 2 younger brothers. but she signed a petition to make the township into a city
Of
Pinesdale, and the LDS Church knew that Pinesdale was a polygamous community, and so once Mom signed onto that petition, then they knew she was. They really couldn't prove that she was a polygamist wife, but the minute she did that, then she got her excommunication papers from the LDS Church.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the church, the Mormon Church, LDS Church, does not tolerate it at all. Now, in the AUB, you can have dual membership. That's fine, because the AUB feels like they're the higher. They're the ones with the true authority, and so in the LDS Church, you were just living. You know, one of the things I was always taught is that in the polygamist church, then you are you're living a higher ordinance, and the LDS Church lives the basic principles, the lower ordinances.
But they still live proper ordinance.
Right.
So you can get some priesthood, the Aaronic priesthood blessings from the LDS Church. So
yeah.
And then to get the higher blessings, you would come back to the AUB to get those ones.
But when I left the AUB and then joined the Mormon Church, I had to go through a whole rigorous process. It wasn't an easy process to do because I had been married in the polygamous temple. And so it was something that took a really long time, and they wouldn't allow me to do it until I was finalized in my divorce and then had full custody of my children, so that I didn't have to get my ex-husband's permission for my son to be baptized too. So he was 9, I think, when my son and I got baptized on the same day into the Mormon Church. But I had to go meet with one of the 12 apostles and have like a whole conversation with them, because they don't have a tolerance for it at all. They're just like, they don't want to be associated with Mormonism.
Yeah.
They don't want to be affiliated with anything. It's like they're very much trying to keep that separation.
Yeah, they don't want to have any associations. That's why they didn't let Maddie join, right?
Right.
So
it's because her family was so public.
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah, so she was. So yeah, Robin and Preston did not go through the temple because they were pregnant.
Because they told the truth.
Yeah.
So Cody,
if Cody would have told the truth, maybe he
wouldn't have made it through the temple on his first marriage either.
Yeah. So somebody's saying there's been speculation about whether Cody and Robin were celibate before their wedding. What do you guys think?
Can't prove anything.
Can't prove anything, but I was 100% convinced forever that they were honest and chaste. And the more I've watched the show, the less I feel like I might have been wrong. So the less I am convinced of that conviction.
He's just been giving me too many. There's too much evidence that, based on their belief system, based on the way he treated Janelle and Christine before he got married to them, he was not as chaste as he was. Let's say it this way. He wasn't as chaste with Robin as he was with Janelle and Christine. So
whatever level that means.
Yeah. So
yeah. Someone says when my
apparently they didn't have to get married, so that would have been a scandal. But
oh my gosh, if they would have had to get married.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if she would have been pregnant and they would have had to get married, that would have been an instant. All the other wives would have been released instantly, and he would not have been a member of the AUB at all anymore at that point.
A huge scandal.
Yeah. When my husband left the church, some of his family members quit having anything to do with him. Do you have this problem with your family members? Yes, I have had, in my family, there has been a lot of people who have stopped talking to me for a long period of time. I think my grandmother was the very worst. She treated me so poorly. It was my dad's mother. It was really hard to experience that. But again, I was the first one out of, last count, 350 grandchildren. I was the first one to get married in the religion. I was the first one to leave. No one had ever left, and I was an embarrassment and a mark on the family because I left. And so she was not kind to me at all. And quite a few of the family members weren't kind to me either. But I don't know. I don't ever like, I never really let it get me down. I was just like, okay, if I cared about your opinion, maybe that would matter to me. But most of them I didn't really care about. I still don't. And so I guess I don't feel like I lost anything by that. Other than with my grandma, that was hard.
And I didn't have that problem. My oldest brother left the religion early on, and I had so much family outside of the religion. So no, my parents probably were just like, oh, he's going out into the world to explore, but he'll be back. They had faith that I'd be back, and
yeah,
I never did come back. So yeah.
See, and I did go back to the AUB for another 2 years after I left. I did go back for 2 years, and then I was welcomed and received and loved and all the other stuff, but I was still an outsider. I was still an us versus them scenario. I was part of an us, but not quite all the way, because I questioned in the first place. And so here's the thing that is so frustrating about this religion, I think probably any religion, but we speak to this one, is the fact that if you question anything, then you are not one of the faithful. But if you don't question, it was like, well, why'd you get married this way then? If you didn't believe it, it was like, I didn't have a chance to question this, because if I would have questioned this, I would have been labeled as a doubter or a non-believer or whatever they want to call me, a wayward, an apostate. But the minute that I do question it, or then I just get married that way because I'm supposed to get married that way. And then I'm a disappointment. Why get married this way in the first place if you were just going to leave? So the contradictions, the hypocrisy is really unreal. Someone says, when Robin says lightning bolt, it reminds me of a lightning butt nerve pain us ladies sometimes get. It's surprising and very painful, but it'll send you flying across the room. That's awesome. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Was I going too fast? Yeah. I feel like I'm trying
moving it, so
you're
like,
oh, sorry.
I'm like, all right, just.
I'm like, I got my eye on where we're going. That's hilarious. Let's see. All of the kids loved Christine and her. And Robin was afraid of her own kids would love Christine as much as her. I can't imagine Robin just telling them, no, you can't be with your brothers and sisters. I think there's a lot of truth to that comment. I think that Robin was afraid to let her kids be around because so many of the kids did love Christine.
Well, it's interesting too that
I don't think it's just Christine though that she does that to. I think it's everyone.
Yeah, including Mary.
Right, exactly, including Mary.
So and then
Solomon was getting too close to Mary. We saw the episode where Mary came and asked to take Solomon out of town. They said no, and Mary walked out slamming the door. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of that. I don't think it's just Christine she feels that way with.
Well, she just has this, the family, we need to include these kids. They go through the whole process of adopting them, bringing into the family this, so that the wives can help her out, so that if something happens to her and Cody, that the wives can, and then her behavior is like, yeah, none of the wives are watching the kids, none of the wives are, so she says one pretty thing to get what she wants, and then she does the exact opposite afterwards.
Yeah, it's so true.
The 9 moms.
Well, and then this one, Cody and Robin's kids are collateral damage. Those two did not care about any of the kids' emotional, social, or physiological well-being.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the episodes where, and they might have.
Maybe they did it off camera where they took them to therapy.
Which probably good, so that these kids can actually communicate what they're feeling and what they're going through. So.
Right.
And I said this on the other live. It's amazing as you go through, because I've watched the end, I think, of most of the seasons as the tell-all, and you see the kids at first talking about they want to impress their parents. Oh no, I think I'd live polygamy. No, this is kind of, but they quickly change over the seasons of going, no, we don't want to live this way at all. We want to find marriage and love, especially as the kids get older and are starting to date. They don't want to live, they see behind the scenes of how miserable polygamy can be in a marriage setup, and so they changed their tune. The only one that hasn't changed their tune is Robin's 2 daughters. They still seem like even in this last season, they want to impress Cody and
Right.
and Robin. So they're still in that mode where, no, we're going to tell them, trying to step out in a way a little bit by joining another church, but they still want to impress Cody and Robin.
Yeah.
And so eventually, hopefully, they start to get into that mindset where, all right, we really don't have to, we're living our own lives, and we don't, I'm 32 now, I don't have to ask my parents permission to.
Can I move out? I'm 32. Can I move out now? Yeah. Okay. Somebody says, it's so beautiful watching the snowfall as I listen to you guys. Thank you. We are actually watching it too. So out here in front of on the other side of this is a huge window, so we can see across the Salt Lake Valley. It's beautiful. And the snow is coming down a little bit. It picks up and then it slows down and picks up. Someone says, hit that like button, and I love you too, your channel and your content. Thank you. Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, hitting that like button. Thank you. We still do have our goal of hitting 10,000. We're getting there. We're going to be so close. So if you guys share our channel, we'd love it. We really appreciate it. And then somebody, I think I passed it. I didn't mean to, but I think I did on accident. Somebody was just saying, when are we going to drop our episodes of us and our lives? So we're going to start doing that. I'm hoping to have one out this Thursday.
We just got the setup, so
yeah,
we're just in the middle of recording and getting everything ready to drop about growing up in polygamy and cool little things that happened in our life.
It's funny because doing these lives is so easy for us because we just answer the questions, but then when it comes to like, what do we talk about? Like, and it's easy when we're talking here because then we're like, oh yeah, we have this story. Oh yeah, we have this story. Oh yeah, that happened to us.
How deep do I go?
But then when we're on when we're talking by ourselves, it's like, oh shoot, do we say that? Because that, I mean, it's so, there's some deep levels of abuse. And so it's like, we can make light and fun of it here. But I think we've been a little bit like scared, not scared, but just, it's just different to share it just one-on-one.
I'm waiting to see the episode of Sister Wives though, where Cody gives a name and blessing to every one of her dolls. So
oh my gosh.
She can keep them in eternity.
Yep.
She's got to take that doll collection into
He's going to legally adopt all those. I mean, he should with how much money she apparently spent.
That's a collection she wants to take into the afterlife. So.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. Okay, Christine's kids.
It's creepy.
I hope they do all have names. I think it would be interesting if they did. I used to collect porcelain dolls, right? And so now I didn't do a very big collection. I was a poor, broke little teenager, but I'd pick them up here and there where I could, right? I had a couple of them. I had one on my dresser for years, and it had a little bow, had a little picture frame. I had a picture of my 3 kids on it, right? Then Cory and I get married, and in our bedroom, we have an extreme vaulted ceiling with a couple of different shelves. Well, I put this doll up there, kind of forget about it. It grows like literally 10 layers of dust on it. I forget about it. So then
it's staring down at me as I sleep. It's freaky.
So our youngest son is on the autistic scale. He's on the spectrum. And he's like, what is this doll? And he's got to climb up there and figure out how to find this doll that is now a source of misery for our grandchildren, because Cory hides this doll and scares the tar out of our grandbabies.
It scared me. It scared our kids. It's something precious to her, but it's a creepy doll that moves around the house.
And so the little kids are like, that's not real, right, Grandpa? So we basically claim my little brother. I have a little brother the same age as my oldest, and they have 2 boys, and my oldest has 2 girls. And so, and my little brother, they call me Aunt Mel, but they call Cory Grandpa because I don't even know if they've really met my dad ever. And so they call Cory Grandpa. We're surrogate grandparents to them. Right. And so this little kid, he's 5 now, and he's like, Grandpa, that doll's not real, right? And Cory's like, oh yeah, it is.
No.
It's going to move if you don't look at it.
No, so my son has been moving it around, so he knows it freaks me out. So
there's always this competition to see who can hide it and scare the crap out of the other person.
Yeah.
But our son is almost 18.
I'll walk into my garage and be sitting there working on my toolbox, and I look up and there's a doll looking at me, and I'm like, what the heck? So then I go and move it into his room,
into
in
the
his
shower
closet,
where he has to shower. So he whips open.
So we're
yeah.
moving it in different areas through the house to startle each other, and so our son tells the grandbaby.
Oh yeah, I guess our son did that, huh? Not you.
He tells the grandbaby that if you keep your eye on it, it won't move. But if
you look away,
it moves. And so he's like, nah. And so he came to me, and I'm like,
he's like, Grandpa, is this true? Does this doll move
all over the house?
And Cory's like, yeah, it does.
And so all of a sudden he's like, oh no, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you like that. And now he doesn't like the doll either.
He's terrified of this doll. And one day he stands at the top or the end of the hallway, and my son had put the doll out because Cory had hid it by his Xbox, and he was like, you dumb. So he just puts it outside of his bedroom door, and our little guy sees it, and he screamed his head off. All of us jumped up, we're running out there, we're like, what in the hell is happening? And he's like, it moved. He thought he was dead. It was so scary. And then, but the best one I think is when our son put it in the safe.
Yeah.
And Cory goes and he's all beep, 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 opens up the safe, and there's this doll staring right at him, and got him pretty good.
Because I'm just a big kid. I get scared too. I watched all these scary movies growing up, and so I'm probably the scarediest in our house. So.
You are. He is. Yeah, he's like, I can't watch a show alone. Mel, will you watch it with me so I don't have to sit out here by myself? So
the dolls moved from a decorated place in the house to our Halloween collection now.
And it just got that deep, deep, deep layer of dust and like cobwebs and stuff on it. It just got put up on that shelf in our bedroom, and it was pushed back, so we never saw it. We never even realized it was there. And then our youngest just went, there's something up there, I can see it. And so he climbed up there and found it. So now it's become a source of angst for our grandchildren around here. So no, we don't. So
I have to hide the doll.
Yeah.
So whenever the grandkids
I'm always trying to hide it
away in there.
Yeah. So let's see. Christine's kids will form an attachment to David solely on how he treats them and their mother. They will see it with their own eyes.
Yep.
I agree with you. And that's why my kids adore Cory so much, is because of the way that they were treated by him growing up. And that's why our daughter asked him to officiate her wedding, is because I know he likes the praises, but he hates them too. But it's very true.
It's just you don't have to force it. And I felt like Cody
just loved them the way you wanted to be loved as a child.
So
yeah. So no, we're oh, and then somebody wants to know, they can't wait to hear about Pinesdale and your 9 moms. Oh, that's coming. We're gonna get there. He was like, do I wait 10 years till my mom passes, or 20 years till my mom passes, and then I tell some of these stories? I'm like, no, I doubt she'll watch them anyways. It'll be good.
She'll laugh at some of them.
Yeah. David once said there's room for everyone. He is accepting and holds space for all the kids. He believes in inclusion. I absolutely agree with you on that one, and I think that he holds space very well. I absolutely have adored him.
Their house is probably so creepy with all those dolls.
I know.
I would be so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would look at them and just see price tags everywhere. I'd just be like, what the heck? How much did you spend on this? So let's see.
It would be, yeah.
Mine were like garage sales. I used to garage sell. Okay. Oh, this is a question I want to get to. So I'm going to make a whole video about this. It's been on my to-do list and I just haven't done it yet. Stepdad Paul had his funeral at an LDS church in his LDS temple garments. Is that common? So I'm going to actually do an individual video about this, but yes, that is very common, especially in the AUB. There's a lot of people that get married in the Mormon church houses, and the reason why is because this is where I have to give the Mormon church a lot of credit. They are very service oriented, inclusive in a lot of that kind of stuff. They're and it's free. And typically they will allow, the Relief Society will get involved and feed the family dinners and stuff like that, where the AUB is not inclusive at all. And so if you're going to have a funeral that is going to be, like, if that person had left the AUB, they're not welcome to have a funeral at the AUB, even if their parents are still in the AUB, or they're, spouse, their ex-spouse was still, whatever it is, they're not really welcomed to have a funeral out there. They're just not, you're not welcomed on site, without a lot of, and I'll go into a lot more detail on I'll make that video today and get it posted today. Because there's just a lot more to explain than just what I'm saying here.
Yeah, a lot of times families have, when somebody passes, they've got kids both in the LDS church, outside of, have no religion, and some that are still in the polygamist group. And so when a parent passes away, sometimes, it depends, but sometimes those kids that are no longer faithful in the group aren't necessarily, they don't feel welcomed to those kind of funerals, don't feel welcome coming onto priesthood property to do that. So they would rather do it in a neutral place like an LDS church, so that everybody can come and mourn the passing of.
Right. And I said that yesterday on the conversation with Lee, that, my little brother passed last year, and he was, or I guess in 2023, gosh, it's going by faster. But we had his funeral at a non-denominational Christian church, because my mom wanted everyone to feel welcomed and everyone to be there. And that just doesn't happen on priesthood property. And then earlier last year, my grandmother from one of my other moms passed away, and her funeral, I mean, she's deep rooted polygamist roots. I mean, her parents were some of the original founders of the AUB, original founders of even, I believe, even in the FLDS. So she literally had siblings that went both ways. And her funeral was held at an LDS church house, and she was in full temple garment, full temple gear, because same thing. They wanted it to be more inclusive for everyone to be there. And so it was held at one of her children. Her children were LDS, and it was held at their ward house. So it's very common. It really does happen a lot. I think it surprises people that it happens as often as it does, but it really kind of just depends too on the bishop, and if he's willing to open up the church for that.
And it's also location too. There's a building in Bluffdale, Utah. There's one in Pinesdale, Montana. There's one in Mexico.
Cedar City.
Yeah, Cedar City. So
Midland, Utah, or not Midland, but down in eastern Utah. If
the funeral's happening within one of those, then you could. I mean, my dad passed away in Pinesdale, and the funeral was at the Pinesdale.
The Pinesdale
church, because he was lived there his whole life.
Well, and he was one of the original founders.
And it was definitely uncomfortable, but a lot of us Gentiles or apostates went into. I hadn't been in that building since I'd been excommunicated, and so here I was in that building again with all the people staring at us.
And there was a lot of men that showed up to judge and to make sure he better not be buried in his temple clothes. And because Cory's dad was excommunicated, and but he was one of the original founders of Pinesdale. So he was buried in his full temple clothes. But there was a lot of people there judging it, and I'm sure those people watched some of our videos, and you know who you are.
And this is
They're not very nice people.
This is the interesting part. If it had been done in more of a neutral place, I think everybody would have felt more inclusive. But they still did it on priesthood property. So sometimes it happens if it's in that location. Other times it's 200-300 miles away, and it's easier to do it in an LDS church. So.
Yeah. So somebody says, how did you learn to be in a healthy relationship without seeing it growing up? Well, I feel like we've always done really well, but we definitely get triggered back into some of our unhealthy patterns. That's why we got divorced. We were divorced for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then we had to figure that out. And
we've gone to marriage counseling, parent counseling, asked a lot of questions, read a lot of books. I watch a lot of podcasts and stuff on how to, and I also did, there were certain times, certain things that I was like, that really as a child made me feel included and loved. I did have three older mothers that were almost like grandmothers, and there were certain things that I'm like, no, that's good parenting, and this I'll never do to my kids. And so one of them was, we had a grandmother that would, or a mother that would get down on the floor,
And
especially when we were younger kids, and play with us and talk to us and ask us questions and see how we were doing and give us hugs. And so that's what I wanted to include in when I became a father. That felt like a really good connection for me, and so that's what I have done with my kids. I want to, and my grandkids, I want to get down on the floor, play with them, do what they're interested in, and talk with them and see how they're feeling. When they're saying I'm confused, why are you confused? I want to understand. I want to kind of walk through where your confusion comes from and help you, if you will, make a decision that, so that you don't feel confused in life. So,
and there was, like, I feel like we first of all adored the hell out of each other when we first got married. We did. We were like so deeply, like,
lightning bolt.
No, it was, I wouldn't say
contact.
that. But the first time I ever met Cory, we'll go into this on our podcast too. The first time I ever met Cory, I just knew something was different about him, but I was married, didn't even really look at him. So I feel like it's just one of those things where we focused a lot on our kids, and that's why our marriage got in trouble, because 95% of our focus was on our children, and we didn't focus on our relationship as much, because we adored each other so much. And so then when things got hard, they got hard, and we weren't prepared for them because we didn't invest into our relationship. We invested everything into the kids. And so this time around, we've kind of tried to fix that. And hey, what does a healthy marriage look like? What does this look, and so we tried to identify those factors and then also express our own needs. Hey, I need this from you. I need this from you. For me to feel loved, I need this or whatever. So I feel like this time around, we've had a lot more communication than we had in our first 15 years.
Honesty. Growing up in the AUB, you learned just to not tell what your needs were.
You don't talk about what you need.
Selfish. You were being. You didn't talk about things that were uncomfortable. That just caused a rift in the family. So
and if you
didn't discuss a lot of our frustrations.
We didn't discuss our needs or our wants, and we were very compatible mentally, well, we kind of were spiritually, but we were very compatible physically, emotionally, like mentally characterized. We knew what we wanted with our kids, so we were very compatible in all of those ways. It was just things started to get hard. Deaths started to happen, and weight and stretch marks, and he had apples and I wanted oranges, and no, I'm just kidding. But things like that started to happen. But yeah, we are making a video on that one. It's a hard one for sure. I'm at fault for the divorce, not entirely Cory. And so it's a hard one to make for sure. But yeah, we'll be making that video, and we're like writing down pieces, like how much do we actually say, how much do we not say, but we'll be doing that one. Somebody says, Melanie, was it your sister that was interviewed by another creator? It was. Yeah, and that interview is why I decided to start speaking out publicly, is because I felt that my sister was done very poor. I felt like she wasn't respected during that conversation like she could have been, and I felt like there was a lot of...
Well, she was telling her story and the frustrations that she had growing up and things that happened in her life that was growing up, and then I felt like the creator took it from there and tried to sensationalize it.
Yeah. A lot of stuff was...
Try to tell it from her point of view, and it was like...
Yeah.
For somebody, to make it, instead of having her come back on and ask more questions, it was just like, okay, now time to sensationalize this.
Well, and so
Get it creepy.
I just finally couldn't stay silent about it anymore because it was so egregious. I'm like, the way we grew up was horrible enough. We don't need to lie about it. We don't need to make up, like, you know, salacious headlines and say these ridiculous things that make no sense. And so I was hurt by the video, and I'd watched it a couple times, and I finally, you know, I've always very openly spoke about the way I was raised. There's nothing I could do about it. I didn't choose that life. I was just born into it. There's nothing so I've always been very open about speaking about it. But was I going to be brave enough to get on the internet and speak about it? And so I finally made a video. It's coming up on 2 years in May. I made that video, and in the video I said, I don't know, maybe I will start my own podcast so that things can get told with truths and more accuracy.
From our point of view.
From our point of view. Yeah. And, you know, I'm sure that some of the Sister Wives people will probably watch our content and be like, that's not true. That's not true. And I know that there's AUB people that watch my content and say, that's not true. I've gotten feedback about it. And I'm like, I'm glad that wasn't your experience, but that was my experience. And, you know, I did a whole video on women being treated like chattel and cows, sacred cows. And I got a lot of pushback on that video that just wasn't true. And so I know that people feel that way when they hear my stories, but that's the problem with the AUB, is that there's so many different levels of, I was taught this, well, I was taught this, well, I was taught this, well, you're wrong and I'm right. And this is why there's so many splinters like FLDS and the Kingstons and, you know, all of these different groups, because they're all taught so many different things. So I know that there's a lot of AUB people that watch my stuff and feel frustrated with it as well. So I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to keep it as honest as we can about our experiences. That's why I try to take something that happened in the Sister Wives episodes and relate it back to something that we had in our real life, so that we can kind of give that. So no, I know that there's a lot of that.
Explain some of the belief systems of stuff that look weird on it. It is that it looks weird to even me as a guy who's been away from the AUB, but it's kind of explaining why they're doing it. It's all based on their life after this one.
Yeah.
The eternity part of it, so.
Well, and my sister that did that interview has been begging me to do an interview with her. She's like, let's do a co-host thing together. So we are.
Should have her on.
Yeah, I believe she's coming over in 2 days, and we were going to film that in a couple of days. And so, so yeah, she's, you know, some of the stuff that was said was blatant lies, and others of it were just so egregiously misconstrued and misrepresented that I just couldn't stay silent anymore. So here, now you guys all benefited from that. So really, I have that creator to thank for lighting a fire under my butt and making me like go, no, I'm going to speak out publicly. I can't sit back and watch this gross unfairness. And so yeah, that's why we're here today, is because of that. So I actually don't have any ill will towards that creator. I just won't give her any interviews. I won't give her any. She will literally copy my words from our videos word for word, so you can watch that. But yeah, I really have her to thank for giving me the courage to speak up and say something. So
they complimented our background.
Oh, we're still working on that. Oh my gosh, you are so ridiculous. Okay, when I bought this, it said on Amazon, fit this to your room. I put up the camera, I fit it to the room.
Huge.
And then I'm like, you know what, I'll order an extra one, because that would be cute to put out, you know, whatever. We'll put the baby stuff in it, all the grandbaby stuff. We get it here and they're miniature. They're so tiny. And then Cory went through the house and like pulled up a bunch of stuff. And our daughter came over last night. She's like, you're not letting Dad decorate that, right? And I'm like, well, I'm going to let him have a moment with it, and then we'll go back and fix it later. And then I forgot we were doing this live right now, and I haven't come back to fix it. Although this right here, this flower was from our daughter's wedding, and so that can kind of stay. So yeah. Let's see. We're going to wrap this up in about 10 minutes. We're going to keep this one to an hour and a half. I promise. Which one?
I was decorating for her, so there was a chopstick right here. So, but she took it down.
Yeah.
So things that Melanie has, stuff that I've.
My chat. Well, I do. I get that.
Thank
you guys all so much for the all the different ideas for dry mouth. It's been awesome.
Match my big coffee cup.
Let's see. I'm just trying to catch. a couple of these. I feel like I'm seeing like comments online that I'm not.
Are you caught up?
Yeah, it says I'm caught up, but I'm not seeing them. Somebody says, can you say her name? I just don't have any. My sister's name is Emily Lee, so you can feel free to go. I just don't want to give her any more airtime than necessary. Or people have said it in the comments. I'm just not going to say it out loud. I don't want to give her anything that we don't need. Let's see. Any other? Who is going to figure out what group the doll creators are using to create excitement? It's a race to buy it, and then within the group. Yeah, you're probably going to get like an underground cult of buyers of dolls now, which is kind of crazy. Condolences on the passing of your brothers. Yeah, thank you. So Paul's funeral does not mean he wasn't an LDS member. It doesn't mean that at all.
Mm-mm.
He could have been. Because a lot of people live polygamy most of their whole lives, and the church never finds out that they were part of the polygamists, and so they never excommunicate them. They only really do it if they find out. So that does not mean that he was, no, not at all.
No, they probably would have figured out because I don't know, you'd know this better. The temple clothes, are they different than the LDS temple clothes?
No, they're supposed to be the same.
The same? Okay.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the same. So
well, maybe they wouldn't have found out if they're dressed in the same temple clothes. Right. I wouldn't know. Never been through it. Don't have
No, the temple,
fancy clothes.
From my understanding, the Mormon church has changed the garment, but not the temple clothes.
Okay.
The temple clothes are all the same. Like all the garb that you would wear going through a temple ceremony is all exactly the same. So he had, his green apron, everything on there. But no, when my grandma, I was actually kind of surprised when I saw my grandma's funeral was going to be at a ward house, an LDS ward house, because, her roots are deep. She's a Jessup, and like her dad was one of the main founders of, been in polygamy his whole life. And so, yeah, I was really surprised by that. But when I went and saw her, I believe she was in her full temple outfit. So let's see. My great aunt was buried in her temple garments. She showed me which suitcase I needed upon her death. So yeah, and that's supposed to be like a very sacred process when you dress someone in their temple clothes after they pass. It's supposed to be a very like honoring, supposed to be an honorable thing. And let's see. Welcome, Rosalind. She said, I just caught your first live. Thank you. Let's see. Do AUB members feel envious of the LDS fancy temples? I think that they would obviously like to have a fancy temple like that, but the ones that they have are pretty nice. They've done a pretty good job with it. They, if you've seen any of the craftsmanship of a lot of the polygamous men, they take their craft very seriously, and when it comes to especially temple stuff, it's even more. So they're nice.
You're talking about the inside. The outside just looks like a...
Yeah, the outside you would not know that it was a temple at all. But the inside is very nice. So, and I know that they just redid the Mexico temple and just updated it and made it super, super nice down there.
Well, and then they did one out in Missouri, but that was based on all the independents.
Right.
That one.
Right. So, and so that's what's really like great about a lot of the polygamists, like, is because they all have most of them are blue collar workers and have really good craftsmanship and take a lot of pride in the work that they do. They're good, honest workers.
Well, most of them. We were all trained as young men. I worked in a cabinet shop. I worked on the dairy farm. We were trying to be trained in many different, so that if the family that was running the dairy needed to go and do something or were out of town, that some of us could step in and continue running the dairy farm. I worked in the cabinet shop. There's one up in Pinesdale and one down in Santaquin, and I worked in both of those cabinet shops. So yeah. To learn how to get a trade, if you will. And right. So I worked in masonry. I worked in so many different fields to
just not automotive.
fall back.
That one's been a really hard struggle for me. I'll do something to our cars. I'm like, why can't you change the brakes yourself? He's like, I don't work on cars or
My brother's
plumbing.
a mechanic. I'd rather take it to
And
him.
he hates
He's got
plumbing
that
and he
skill.
hates automotive.
Yeah.
Oh,
Both of those are my nemesis. So.
right. Somebody says, how much younger is your sister? She's 8 years older, or 8 years younger than me. So my mom had 11 children. I am the oldest, and she's 8 years younger than me. She's exactly the middle child. Is she exactly the middle child? No, she's not exactly the middle child, but she's one of the middle ones. So let's see. I don't get how Cody was probably sealed to his dad when, but then Cody's kids are sealed to him. Isn't Cody going to be in his dad's eternity?
Yeah,
well, because his dad was married in the LDS temple and then was married in the polygamist temple, they believe that they were sealed.
Yeah.
And then Cody got married to Mary in the temple. And so they might have gone back and done like a sealing for Cody to his parents. They might have done that. They just wouldn't televise that, I'm sure.
So yes, you're sealed within the family, the larger family, but basically what that does is if I need advice or ordinances or permission to do something, then I need to go to my priesthood leader above me, which would be, in this case, his father. And then his father would go to his father, to the generations or whoever he was sealed to get that advice. So you kind of got to go up the chain of command. So
yeah, and that's what
in your priesthood lineage to get permissions to create that eternity of worlds and cities and all sorts of stuff. And then you're providing huge stuff for your children, those below you. So,
but it's kind of like your priesthood.
Yeah.
If one guy screws up, what happens? Is it a domino effect? Everyone down below him gets screwed?
Right.
So you better hope.
Or you have to go and get sealed to somebody else. Your dad got excommunicated and you wanted to, then you have to go find another dad to get sealed to. So priesthood leader to go ask questions.
Right.
Especially if it goes down to hell, then it's a long vacation
it's a long
trip
one.
to go down to hell to get permission to do stuff.
Somebody says, how does your sister feel about the creator that interviewed her? I'm going to let her answer that herself. So I don't want to speak for her. I want her to be able to I want her to find a voice. I'm so proud of her for being able to stand up and say something in the first place. I really want to have her have her own voice about things.
Yeah.
What?
Let him decorate. Unlearning the toxic masculinity that you be. Yeah.
Oh, I read that comment a couple of times. Let him decorate. Unlearning the toxic masculinity. I know, and I was like, I don't know what they're talking about. That's funny. No, that's funny. I know. He went through and so Cory is a lover of gold, and so let's see if I can get my hand the right direction. So this, I know. Like, how do we do that? That's backwards. This little bottle is a bottle of gold. But it's got like a little statue on top. It looks like the angel Moroni. I'm like, we are not putting that up there. It's going to look like we're promoting the angel Moroni.
But it's not. It's a gold miner. So.
Yeah. And the angel Moroni is what is on top of every LDS temple. That's the angel with the horn. And so that's why I was like, we're not putting. He's like, it's gold flakes. We're putting it up here. I'm like, no, we're not. So yeah. Let's see. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah says, Melanie, you are an inspiration to many. I can tell you have done a lot of work on your past traumas and are still able to be loving and compassionate. It gives me hope. Thank you. Yeah.
I got that gold fever when I was a kid. So one of the cool things about growing up is there's a place up in Montana called Hughes Creek. And we'd go up there fishing as little kids. My dad would take some of us boys up there, but they had a gold mine up there. They bought the property up in Hughes Creek to do some gold mining. And so I got to go up there as a little kid and pan for gold and had little tiny vials of gold flakes that I would do it. And I just thought it was cool to be able to sit there and as a little kid and look for gold up there at the Hughes Creek thing. So, and go fishing. Those were some good memories that I had of growing up when I was a little kid. So yeah. And I try to take, I've got
So we tried to put little things up here that gave him like, it's so funny because Cory is very much, the things around him make him feel happy. So he has this Christmas shirt and he would wear that thing everywhere. And I bought it for him. I love the shirt, but I'm like, dude, it's Easter. Why are you wearing this shirt? And I was getting so snippy with him about it. I was not being very nice. I don't know why. I was just being kind of short about it. And I was like, why are you wearing this shirt? It's 80 degrees outside and this is a freaking like flannel. What are you doing? And so then he stops for a minute and he's like, because it makes me feel happy. It's my happy shirt. And I was like, oh shit, I'm so sorry. You can wear that shirt every day of the week if you want, babe. I felt so bad. I didn't mean to get that, but I was like, what are you doing? It's 80 degrees outside. And yeah, he's like, I felt like I needed a little extra happiness today, so I wore my happy shirt. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and so then I've got little gold pens out in the garage. We do sapphire. There was a sapphire mine up in Montana that I took the kids to and sat for hours looking for little sapphires up there. They have all those little things up in Montana, and those were things that I enjoyed as a little kid. So I in turn have taken my kids to go and do that.
Yeah, so we've done all that with our kids. We have pan for gold, do all sorts of stuff. Do you think your dad watches your podcast? I don't think he does. I think other people watch it for him and then just report back to him on it. He's got a lot of minions now.
The Lord gives him the highlights.
Yeah, he gets the cliff notes. That's about it. So, I like it. Somebody was saying, is the AUB worried about Christine's book coming out? You know, a dozen people, hundreds of people have left the AUB and all written books or written. So I think to them, they don't care here nor there. They're just like, because, you know, they're so far above like what the world thinks that they don't really care what the world thinks anymore. And so I don't think that it really matters to them at this point. I'm curious what she's going to say in it because I am curious if she has an NDA for the show. Can she go back and write? So I don't know how that's going to turn out. I was actually excited when I heard when she was writing one. I've contemplated it for years. I've honestly been told for about 20 years now to write a book, and I just never have. Because I used to think, you know, I used to think my story wasn't that big of a deal. And, you know, here we go with the big deal again. But I didn't think that my story was like that. I didn't think people would be that interested in it. And so it's been interesting to see the reaction that we've gotten. It's like, oh, we just grew up like any other little plig kid. I didn't think anyone would really care about it. But now I might actually go back and write a book. We're thinking about that. But I did want to get to this comment. So you're saying that I was allowed to dress my grandmother with her temple clothes with the ladies of her ward, even though I wasn't LDS, and they were so kind and answered all my questions. So there's a lot of controversy around that. It depends on who your bishop is, if your bishop's going to allow it. In the AUB, you have to be a worthy temple holder in order to help with that, because that's considered an ordinance almost. You're sending this person off into the next life. And so it's like you can't baptize without the right authority. You can't do certain things without the right authority. That's kind of how it is with the dressing of a body when it's about to be buried. It's kind of the same thing if you're putting on your temple clothes.
Is it sending them off, or is it preparing their body
for the resurrection?
For the resurrection.
Sorry, yeah, I should have said it like that.
So they're preparing the body for the second coming of Christ, so it'll be resurrected in its full glory, dressed in its garment, properly dressed.
So it needs to be, so the body needs to be properly dressed, so that the morning of the resurrection, then you know, that person will be resurrected correctly and not miss something. And so I personally have a lot of angst against that rule. I think it's ridiculous. I think that it is, you know, this is where I could go off on a tangent, because I just think it's complete BS that these, you know, you don't even get to go to the weddings, and then the last thing, you don't get to dress your loved ones as they leave, you know, as you're getting ready to bury their body. But, you know, then again.
Well, and in my dad's case, they prepared his body correctly. Well, he was a fly fisherman.
Oh,
and
yeah.
My older brother was amazing at tying flies. I used to watch him for hours. He tied some of the most amazing flies, and my dad was always asking him to tie him gold-butted renegades. because that's what Dad fished with. And so my older brother, to honor my dad, because my dad was military too, he had medals, he had stuff, and they weren't going to put those on his body. Those are earthly things. These are heavenly clothes, or even though, but that they're preparing for him to come forth in the resurrection. And my brother sent him on with 2 gold-butted renegades that he had tied especially for him. Sorry. And hooked him in his sash so that he was put to rest with those gold-butted renegades so he could fish.
Yeah.
And it offended a lot of people that he would dare put those renegades on there.
That he would
violate the dressing.
Disrespect the temple clothes.
To the rest of us, it was pretty amazing. He was my brother's a sweet guy. So
Yeah. So it was very well, and he was not biologically Cory's father's child. He came in at a very, very young age, and Cory's dad raised him as if he was his own.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really sweet actually to watch it, but there was a lot of upset about it. I had actually forgotten about that, and Cory talked about that.
I was like, good guy.
Yeah.
My brother was a good guy.
Yep. It's very sweet. It was very, and that just shows like there are a lot of men that will come in and love children that are not biologically theirs. And so it's not to say that it can't be done. It absolutely can be done.
And he didn't have to change his last name. So
yeah, he didn't. Nope. He kept his
last name.
Yep, his brother kept his original last name. So let's see. I get the impression that Wynn was always Cody's interest, always found Cody's interest sort of foolish, and that they had slightly contentious relationship. He probably just thinks Cody was being an idiot as usual. So I was curious about some of this. I just wanted to get to this question too because I was kind of curious about it. We're both tired too, but I've always, because people are like, well, Wynn didn't like Cody. Why didn't Wynn like Cody? But if you look at it, like Wynn was raised on a farm. He was a hard worker. He didn't take the easy way out of anything. He didn't do the quick rich schemes. He didn't do any of that stuff. So if you have a child that you feel like is always wanting to take the easy way out, and not that polygamy is easy by any means, but we all heard Maddie say on her podcast that he always did the quick rich schemes. And so if that's the case, like, of course, Wynn would probably have more contention towards Cody than he would maybe some of his other kids, right? And so I think that it would be it's not necessarily that Wynn was a bad man or an abusive man. I don't know if he was or not, but I could definitely see why that would be contentious for him. If he's looking at him like, what the hell? What are you doing? Like, work for a living, work hard for a living, do your responsibilities, do your duties. Don't dump all the things onto your wives. Like, I could see the judgment there for sure. Good.
I was just reading.
Oh. So somebody says, could Robin's kids get resealed to their birth father when they find out it was BS? So that's only a Mormon ceremony. It's only a Church of Jesus Christ, type ceremony. They were never sealed to their father in the first place because they were never married. Robin and him never got married in the temple. But yes, they could. If they wanted to, they could go get that sealing released from Cody. They would just have to go do it with the leadership of the church, though.
Yeah, if they wanted to.
If they wanted to go through that, or if they even cared.
If they even believe it.
Right.
Yeah. We're just kind of explaining what we were raised with, the beliefs that they have. A lot of us that have moved out and away from the AUB, they gave me my excommunication papers. I believed them. I don't want any of their blessings, or I'm assuming that all of those are null and void now.
Right.
So I'm not going to go. My children are free agents. They're their own beings. I'm not going to seal them up unto me or what. I don't know what's going on after this life. So why would I sit there and request that these guys check in with me? I want to just love on them so that they, hey, I like that guy. I'm going to connect with him if there whatever goes on after here.
Right.
So I don't need them to be sealed up. I don't have any priesthood that they can be sealed to. I'm just a normal human being. So yeah, that there's nothing they could if they wanted. Do they really want to? Does he even care about AUB priesthood, the biological father? I don't think he does. He's not connected to it. So
Right.
So would they want to go legally and change their name? I mean, that's probably up to them, but yeah, they probably could. I think Robin legally changed her name to her stepfather's name, so
Yeah.
it depends on who shows up in your life and what name you want to.
Yeah, because I think it's really, and I know a lot of people who have done it. They've gone to the church, to the actual mainstream church, and just said, I want my name released from this person. I'm, and they'll go through the whole process because it's something that they believe in. So yeah, if these kids do eventually feel that this is something that they want to do, they would have to seek that out on their own. It wouldn't be something that the church would just say, yeah, we're going to give you this release. They'd have to go and do it on their own.
If they keep their belief systems into their adulthood, they might want to go back and do that if they choose. So
yeah. So let's see. Is there some? Oh, sorry. I'm trying to get. I think I jumped over it. Where I live, the wards do not have the angel Moroni in them. All the temples do. Right. It's only the temples. The church buildings don't have it. It's just their temples that have the angel Moroni. Oh, are your tombstones facing to the east like the Catholics do? Because that'll be the first view of God. Mm-hmm. I don't think so. Yeah. Are we? I don't know.
Well, I only know because Pinesdale's cemetery is facing to the east. Yeah.
Is that really why? Okay, that's first I've heard cool. That. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that's probably true. Then yeah. Oh shoot, there was one I was
there was one.
I know, I went.
Yeah, my dad did get full
that's the one I was going for too,
honors,
yeah.
So that was awesome that the military came up and gave him the 21 gun salute. Amazing group of veterans up there that came up to Pinesdale to give him the military honors up in the Pinesdale Cemetery.
Right. Right. So yeah,
those were the amazing parts of the funeral. So
yeah, it was interesting too to watch the funeral, because I felt like some of the kids that I wouldn't have thought were so loving and affectionate towards Cory's dad. I felt like they struggled a little bit harder. Were some of the ones that it seemed like the most torn up. Yeah. Cory's little sister says there was too many feelings when we should have just supported and loved each other and how we needed to mourn. Yep, it's true. Yep, and honestly, it was a very sweet send off by his brother.
The only thing that I criticize about that whole funeral is the idiot that they chose to say the
opening prayer.
Opening prayer.
Gosh.
They should have checked his credentials if he should have been allowed to say the opening prayer.
Cory said the opening prayer, and then he was up on stage and he couldn't not remember how to end the prayer. And I'm looking at him. I hadn't done it
for years. I hadn't done the ritual prayers for years, and so.
And I'm in the audience and I'm looking at him like he's stuck. What do I need to do for him? And so I'm trying to figure out how to support him in this. And finally, he's just he can't remember. So then he says something else. And then he's like, oh shoot. And then he says something else because he can't remember how to end it.
I was just thanking everybody for showing up and supporting the family and all that stuff. And then I'm like, wait a minute. How do you let everybody who has their head bowed and their arms folded,
let them know that
we're done. It's over with. And I didn't know how to do that. And so then I'm like, okay. Got up, walked down, sat down.
No, that was when you're like, all right, well, have a nice day.
Went down, sat down, and everybody's like, did he just really end the prayer with that?
And so
ritual?
I am chuckling in the audience. I am laughing. And so he sits down, I put my arm around him. I'm like, or you can say in the name of Jesus Christ, amen. And he's like, that's what it was. I'm like, yeah, you were stuck up there for a minute, weren't you? And so that was so. And then I sat, he's in his seat, before anybody like realized what had
the prayer
happened.
was over.
And I'm giggling and I'm like looking around the room at people and they're just like, we don't know what to do.
All of my family is just laughing.
Oh my gosh.
That was awesome. And everybody else is like, who let
These
the
guys
heathen
are
in here?
shameful.
Yeah.
How did we let them have this funeral in our church
Yeah.
building with their shameful? So, yeah, it was hilarious. Let's see. Oh, Cody's Get Rich gun shows are what my husband calls Benjamin or bargain basement Walmart stuff. Oh gosh. Yeah, I haven't been to that. According to Benjamin Brown, Wynn was abusive. I've heard that from a lot, but I don't remember. I only met Wynn maybe half a dozen times, so I don't remember him well enough to have an opinion about that. Well, I was going to end at 2:30, but now it's 2:45, so let's just go till 3 and then 15 more minutes.
And I don't even know that Brown family. I knew a different Brown family. There's 2 Brown families that grew up, and I don't even know if they're related, but...
I don't think they are. Did you have a Brown family on the ranch in Pinestill?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we had a different Brown family that I grew up with. My little sister and those guys knew Wynn's family, and that's because my dad had taken some of those family members over to his ranch to see how they were running it and stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't know them growing up. I didn't have a clue.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. We used to pray. Yeah, that was going to say that. Thanks, Katie. We used to pray facing the temple, but I think that that wasn't your dad's thing. That was like very common. Everyone I was always taught my whole life, everyone I knew was taught my whole life that we would pray facing the temple. We would kneel down on our knees and face the temple. And then in the churches, we would stand up and face the front of the church, obviously face the front of the church. But that was definitely, that's how we kind of prayed. I never thought about it, but our cemetery faces east too. Yeah, I never even knew that. That's awesome. What do you say?
When are I going to have...
Robin's brother on the show? Yeah, you should ask him.
I'll ask him, see if he'll come on. So
yeah. I think a lot of people...
He's amazing. So.
I think that more people will come on the show once we start getting like our shit together.
Yeah.
Because we've been trying to figure this out as we've been going along. And so I think more people will want to come on and have conversations with us. Of course, my sister's just a sweetheart, and she was just like, let's do a show together. So, that I feel like she's sweet that way. But yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, thank you. If you guys can like it, that we definitely appreciate that. How was Preston coerced in relinquishing his parental rights? Are you aware that there was a clause in Robin's divorce decree that she can't drink in front of their kids? I don't know anything about that. I haven't followed her divorce hardly at all.
That's awesome if there is.
I hope there is. There should be.
Well, I mean, if you didn't have a problem, then they wouldn't probably put it in the divorce decree.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for that super. I think it's a super chat. I'm not sure what they're called yet. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, if they're putting that in the divorce decree, there's a problem.
Yeah. Somebody says, Mel, you get 5 free subscriptions a month to give away to subscribe. Oh, that's good. Okay, I will look into that. I didn't know that, so I will have to check into that. I know they do that on TikTok too, so I've given a couple of like free subscriptions. We're like trying to map that out, what we want to do for the subscribers. But yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you for that comment. Yeah, I did not know that we had that, so we're gonna have to dig into that and look up that. Sister Wives is getting at least 2 more seasons. I think McKelty was the one who talked about it. They are shooting season 20 now, and they have another season, or 21 probably. And they have another season. I'm hoping that's all for Cody and Robin. Yeah, that's oh gosh, that's a lot. So what are they going to show? Like what are the family dissolved? They can't really call it Sister Wives anymore at this point, but I don't know. Maybe it's life after you screwed up your whole family. I don't know. Maybe they could call it life after abandonment. I don't know. There's my snark. Somebody says, have a nice day. I'm going to ask for that at my funeral now.
It's awesome. That's usually how I end all my
He's like, that's how you end a phone call. I'm like, yeah, right? You were just dialing up God saying, hey, watch over this funeral for us. So, of course, you're going to end it like that.
And all my sisters still make fun of me to this day. They'll be doing communication. I'm like, hey, can I get a nice day? Instead of, can I get an amen?
Can I get an amen? It's, hey, can I get a nice day?
And then they giggle at it. And I'm like, yeah. This is the guy. So I love them. They make fun of me. So.
That's kind of awesome. So someone says, my Quaker family does a prayer song thing for meals, and they printed out the lyrics for everyone because we all forget the second lines. She had a basket of them on the buffet. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like to hear those. Oh, sorry.
I was just trying to read Katie's thing. My little sister's a lot younger than me. I'm one of the oldest.
She's one of the youngest, and Cory's one of the oldest.
But yeah, my dad was friends with Wynn. They would stay with us every summer for conference up in Pinesdale, and she visited to the ranch one time. So yeah, they must have became friends after I got
I can see your dad and Wynn being friends if Wynn is like that, like, because Cory's dad was military, and you know, yes, he could be soft and tender, but more often than not he seemed rough and you know, had rough edges. Oh, somebody says thank you Mel and Cory's kids for helping them figure it out this stuff. Next time you see your grandma, please give her a big hug. Grandmas always love hugs. Yeah, my mom does come up here and stay with me a lot, which we love. Let's see. Don't worry though, she's never been in a bar. Robin's never been in a bar. I think, okay, this is one thing that I think is so funny, because I think this is prevalent in a lot of people's lives. We just don't always talk about it, but more so in the AUB people's lives, because you can be one person in front of somebody and then somebody totally different in front of someone else, because those people aren't friends or they don't talk or whatever. And I think it's hilarious how many lies these people get caught in. Like, what?
I have a whole different opinion. AUB people don't go to bars because they don't want to see each other. They don't want to run into each other there. So they just have their bar in their closet, and they're the closet drinkers. So they get drunk and then they come out and have revelations. So just make sure it's not nefarious revelations, but yeah, they AUB members are
prone to run into each other here. So what's funny too is we went out to Wendover. Wendover is like a local. There's gambling is illegal in Utah, but it's an hour and a half out to the border, and then you're in Nevada, and you can go to a little town called Wendover. And we would go out there for dinners and just to hang out with our family and stuff.
Because we're apostates.
Yeah. So one night we go out there and we talk my parents into coming out there with me, my mom and dad. And we talked them into coming out there with us because we have a free overnight room. My parents are going to come and stay the night, and then they're going to come home the next day. And so we talk them into it. Just come out there. There's a really great steakhouse. We talk them into this whole big thing, right? And there's like 5 or 6 of us siblings, there's a bunch of us going, right?
And her dad's high up in the AUB at the time.
Very high up in the AUB at the time. Not the leader, not the prophet, but still pretty high. We get out there and we run into another at the time was supposed to be a very high ranking guy in there. It was so hilarious because
awkward meeting.
It was watching these two men run into each other. My dad had to explain why he was there. And this guy actually lost all of his family due to a gambling addiction. And he lost all of his finances, lost his family, lost everything due to this gambling addiction. And so it was just hilarious to watch these two try to talk to each other.
Explain to each other why they were in the den of iniquity.
Yeah.
So just supporting their children and having dinner with them.
And literally my dad was like, do they have lobster tail? I'm like, they do. Come and get some. So he comes out there, gets a nice fancy dinner, and then him and my mom were going to bed. I don't think my dad's ever gambled $1 in his life. But it was just hilarious. So yeah, that's why they don't go to bars, because they'll run into each other.
Yeah.
Or gambling
They don't want to have to explain to each other why
they're there.
They're there in a den of iniquity.
Well,
but they'll consume the alcohol freely in their closet or in their house. So they don't want the kids to see they're doing it, but for municipal purposes, drinking. I've got a cough.
Yeah.
Some stuff.
So funny. Somebody says, I heard Mary say on her Instagram that she's thinking about talking to you guys. That's funny. We were actually talking, yeah. Mary and I have kind of been chatting back and forth on Instagram a little bit. You know, we run into each other over the years, that kind of stuff. But I was telling Cory, I'm like, because I did a live the other day with another TikTok creator, and Mary jumped on the live and made a bunch of comments on it, and it was great to interact. But I was like,
I like Mary. I hope she just keeps whipping.
If she comes on, great. If she doesn't, that's fine too. I think
Mel and her are friends. Hi Mary. I don't think I've ever met you before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If she comes on, great. If she doesn't, that's fine too. Like, I mean, I feel like what we have to say carries its own weight. I don't necessarily need somebody from the show to, like, you know what I mean? Be a part of it. But if they do, that's great too. I definitely won't turn it down if she wants to, but I was definitely feeling like what we had to say holds its own weight. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm just talking about me growing up and my opinion on what I'm seeing. So, and I could be completely wrong. They could be. I just noticed that a lot of AUB members that go through the AUB temple, I grew up with a lot of kids my age. I know what we did. I know we went out into the world, we drank, we had fun, and a lot of the kids my age came out and hung out with us, and then they show up 2 or 3 years later, married in the temple of the AUB. They've got 2 or 3 wives, and they look at me and they're like, oh man,
what are you doing here?
What are you doing here? Don't talk to my wives. Don't tell them how I used to grow up. And I just kind of grin at them and like, yep. Yeah. And so knowing that if they had told the truth of what we had, I tell the truth that I get excommunicated. So they get 3 wives. Yeah, they didn't tell.
Yeah, Cory told the truth and got excommunicated for it. Somebody says, you guys should do a collaboration with Liz Phillips. So I was actually extremely close to her family, and she was very young. She was one of the younger, but her older brother was one of my very best friends. It's my ex-husband's best friend's little sister. And her dad was the last prophet.
Oh, okay.
So, her dad was the last prophet. But, I was really close to her family. So
I've got to do collaboration with people from Pinestone.
I know.
You need to do collaboration with people you know down here.
Cory hates hearing genealogy stuff when I'm not around. She's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And I'm like, oh, this is that, you know.
This is how they're connected.
Yeah, but she's amazing. I always loved her growing up. She was just a sweet girl. She's quite a bit younger than me. But I was really good friends with her family and really good friends with her. We went to, in the AUB, they have family Sunday schools. And so different families will organize different Sunday schools, and then everyone comes together for church, like the meeting. But to teach the little kids, you're going to have more of at-home Sunday schools, like what you saw on Sister Wives, where they're having that at-home Sunday school in their living room. And so my ex-husband and I actually went to Liz Phillips' family Sunday school for a good chunk of my life. And so for the good chunk of my married life to my ex-husband. So I grew up with them very closely, and her older brother was one of my very best friends growing up. And so, and her sister married my brother-in-law. Like, there's so many connections there. But I didn't realize she was actually speaking out. I didn't realize who she was because of the last name change. But that would be awesome. I would love to. Does she have a podcast or something out there? Because if she does, I definitely could reach out to her. She was always a sweetheart and a very cutie. Let's see. Okay. Oh, there's my sister. She just joined. She sent me a text. We were talking about her earlier, and she just joined the live. And she sent me a text saying, "I'm watching your video with Lee last night. It's amazing." And I said, "Well, we're live on YouTube. Hurry, come on." And so here she is. So I believe that we are going to be filming a video here in the next couple of days, and if she still comes over and we actually get it done, we're going to do that, and then we'll try to get that posted in the next week or so. And she also got married at 17, and so we were going to talk, we were going to do a collaboration on what it was like to be married so young. So we've talked about that's kind of tomorrow. She says, "Oh, is it tomorrow? I thought it was Thursday. We were going to do that, but we can do tomorrow. I'm open for that. 100% open for that." Oh, here comes the snow again.
Come on over. I'll have some more decorations up
Yeah,
here.
Cory will finish decorating our studio so that by the time we film tomorrow, it'll be so beautiful.
I want to switch it out, different stuff.
Yeah. So, okay.
Put some comedic stuff back there too.
Somebody says, I kind of want to get to this question because this is a really good question. Genealogy, I'm huge into it, but why is it so significant and important to the Mormons to trace it? So I'll let Cory answer that question because he's huge into genealogy and always was.
My mother is, yeah.
Well, his mom. But when we started dating, he was like, "You don't do genealogy?" I'm like, "No, my mom did genealogy and I hate it now because she was gone all the time." And he's like, "I can't date you if you don't do genealogy." But you did say that. You're like, "No, we have to get you into genealogy." I'm like, "No." But I'll let him explain why.
Well, my mother's side of the family has always done genealogy. My grandmother went on 2 Mormon missions over to England to research her family genealogy. So on my mom's side, we have English and Scottish. My dad's genealogy is doesn't go back that far because he came from a country that tends to start a whole bunch of world wars.
Germany?
Yeah. My dad's German, and that country tends to, so a lot of the history kind of stops. But they're working, my mom's working, my grandmother did a lot of my mother's side of the genealogy, and so my mom's been working on my dad's side of the genealogy because my dad was a Gentile. None of his family has ever been Mormon, so never kept that information. So my mom's working on that. And it's to trace your lineage back to see where you came from, see if there's stories in it.
But why is it specifically important to Mormons?
Well, because it traces your lineage back to major priesthood holders. They're trying to somehow trace it back to Joseph Smith or to Christ to prove that you're a royal lineage.
Yeah.
And that's why they get sealed. My grandfather was not a Mormon, was not a polygamist, but so my dad got sealed just like you see Cody to the Mormon prophet or the polygamous prophet.
He did?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so he sealed up his name so that lineage takes him back to wherever it is, Joseph Smith, so it's a private lineage of priesthood.
Right.
So.
Well, okay, and then I'll elaborate on that because Cory's going to leave the most important part out.
Yep.
The reason Mormons do trace it back is because they need to make sure that their ordinance work is done correctly and that they're baptized. That's one of the biggest things, is that they're baptized. And so this is why the Mormon Church is so huge into baptisms for the dead, because they want to make sure that your lineage is baptized all the way back to Christ, if possible. So that is the biggest reason why in the Mormon Church has the biggest genealogy library in the world here in Utah. That's why it's so important, is they want to make sure that your ordinance work gets done and gets done correctly with the right priesthood too. So that's why they do it. But yeah, genealogy was not my friend because I was the oldest, and my mom would go to the genealogy library, and 14 hours later, with a nursing baby that I'm stuck home with, she would come home. And I would get so mad because I was just like, "Mom." Yeah, and so she was so huge. And somebody says, "My name is Melanie." The girl who asked the question, her name is Melanie too, as well. So I'll be Cory's genealogy sister wife.
Yeah. My grandmother used to take us up, but because I had younger eyes, and I would read through all of these scripts for her, and I could read in cursive, and so I was up there reading and telling her what to write down. So hours and hours of time spent up in the genealogy library with my grandmother when I was a younger kid.
Well, and it's such a big deal in Cory's family. It's such I hate
such
that.
a large deal.
I don't like to say big deal anymore, but Cory's aunt was she helped one of the founders of Ancestry.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she passed, they actually did a really nice tribute to her on Ancestry.com for that. Because she was one of the original help develop it. She's in a ton of their training videos on how to use the site, where to go, what to do. So somebody says, I think it's funny that you don't like genealogy, but you know who everyone is and who everyone is related to everyone else.
And I have to go to a book to figure that out. She has it in her brain. She holds all that information, and I'm like, how the heck? So I'm going to the book to look up who I'm related to and how it's all connected. So.
But it's honestly, I probably would really enjoy it if I actually got into it. It's just the fact that as a child, I resented it because it took my mom away so much, and she was already gone working so much, and then genealogy took that away too. Somebody says, can you do the endowment work when they are dead? Yes. Oh yeah, my mom's on here. Yeah, I think she got off for a minute and then came back on.
Okay.
So yeah, so you can do the endowment. I actually, for a minute, AUB was doing endowment work for people who had passed. So I actually went through a couple of those sessions and did endowment work for people I didn't know, but they were just part of like a polygamous heritage of some sort. And so that's what they do, is they do the endowment work for, but they do a lot of the baptisms to make sure people are baptized and baptized correctly.
Yeah,
excuse me.
That is why she's probably considered royalty. Her family lineage goes back as believers of Mormonism for for many generations. Christine.
Oh yeah, Christine.
And they believe in blessings. So if your family has 7 generations of people within that have all stayed faithful to the Mormon church or the polygamist church, that heaps blessings upon future generations. They also believe in curses. So if somebody did something that they weren't supposed to be, that could be a curse on the generations. So blessings and curses are big, are something important in there. So
yeah,
I sorry kids, sorry generations below me.
Well, and my
put
mom
a curse on the generations below me because I don't believe I'm an apostate. So
my mom just said it's important to save everyone in the past who didn't get their work done for them.
Yeah.
So that's why it's such a big deal. And my mom's full of crap too. She also made this comment: Melanie stretches the story big time. It was 3 to 5 hours maybe. No, she's so full of it. My mom stretches the truth. Because here's the thing: the genealogy library closes at 10 p.m. My mom would get home at 2 a.m. What were you doing, young lady, for those 4 hours? She's sitting in the car talking to her friends. So, but yeah, that's why, that's one of the things. It was just, she goes, once a week, every Tuesday. So, no, my mom was gone. It felt like all the time. But she worked a lot, too. She always had 1 or 2 jobs.
My grandmother took me, so...
My mom took me once or twice, I do remember, her taking me up there because the baby was still too young and was still nursing. So I remember I went up there and watched the baby in the lobby and stuff, and she tried to show me a few things up there. It was actually a pretty cool library.
I was a little nerd when I was a kid. I read all the time. I was always reading, and so so those books, that to be able to read some of the histories in there, I just enjoyed it. And so my grandma would take me because I wouldn't get bored. I was reading away where my other brothers got bored of that, and so they would go do other stuff with my aunts while I went up there with my grandma and just read. See,
I love a good mystery, but I don't love a good mystery if it can't be solved. And I think that's where genealogy would frustrate me, is because what if you couldn't solve it? And it was just like unsolved for like 10 years. Like that would be the most annoying thing possible. Somebody says you can bring names from your own family, or people submitted names from their families that they get used randomly. Yeah, that's kind of what happened with me. I think that they were in the endowment house and the polygamist, they have like a prayer list. You can put people's names on the prayer list, very similar to everything that you see in the Mormon church. And then you could do baptisms. They did baptisms for a while, but then they decided, I don't know if they're doing them again, but then they decided it was a lower ordinance, and so they were going to just let the church do it.
It's the ordinance that the church is basically set up to do. So my mom, part of the AUB, as she finds new names through on my dad's lineage and side, she sends them down here. She sent them those names down. She submits them to ancestry.com.
Yeah.
And allows the Mormons to baptize them and stuff like that. So
Yeah, so that's why his aunt
she probably sent my name in to see if I could get rebaptized, but
right. Oh, my mom says, "Hi everyone, thanks for supporting these two. They're the best." Thanks, Mom. Yeah. So we are going to wrap it up though. It is 3, and these 3-4 hour lives are killing us. But the 2 hour, I mean, this has been 2 hours, which hasn't been terrible bad. But we love all the questions. We love everyone for commenting on it. We did set up a buy me a coffee, but we always forget to add that. So I did add it in the show notes, but and we did add it to our website. So we always appreciate that support. What were you saying?
I agree with you, Mom. You do stretch the truth sometimes.
No, I don't. I never stretch the truth. I get sarcastic about the truth, but that's about it. So, but yeah, if you guys can help us, we are so close to 10,000 followers. So please, if you feel like sharing our account, we would love and appreciate that. And
loving the comments too.
Yeah.
Love you guys get our brains working so that I'm going to look into that. So
that's what we say. The lives are easy to do because we can just go off the questions, and then because we lived it, it's easy to answer. But it's when we're focused on like telling our own stories that we're like, do we share this? Do we share this? You know, but our snarky, like sarcastic side can pop up when we're answering comments. But yeah, it's been a little bit trickier for us to do our one-on-one, just our podcast, just the two of us. And as you all saw, my sister will be coming over here tomorrow at noon, and we will be filming that video. So we'll be putting that up in the next couple weeks. We're gonna dump a ton of content on you guys while we're on the break for Sister Wives. So don't worry about it. We're not taking a break. So what do you say?
No. So Big Love or backstories of Sister Wives? I enjoyed Big Love better.
I feel like
I get annoyed with real life.
you like Big Love because it's not all fantasy. Like it's all made up. It's like real life.
But they've changed the names for the protection of the guilty or the innocent.
We can't decide.
Yeah. And I'm not witty enough to change the names of these. They put their names out there.
We'll do a Rochambeau tonight, and we'll figure out like who's. Are we gonna do Sister Wives? Or are we gonna do? Yeah. Or are we gonna do Big Love? Because we'll do both eventually. It's just which one we do first. So, I think it would.
Big Love.
Some people are saying Big Love, but yeah, and we will be going to Montana in April, and so we will do a couple of lives while we're. I think we'll do a live and we'll walk around the town and just do a live while we're up there, and then we'll do a couple videos while we're up there as well, and then that way we can.
I'll have to ask permission from my polygamist family if they're okay to
be on camera.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, we're gonna go up there. We have a couple of different trips up there planned this year, so every time we go up there, we have a couple of weddings and then a funeral to go to up there. So yeah, I feel like Big Love, Sister Wives, because I've never watched Big Love. Big Love, you can watch that on I believe
we'll do both.
You can do it. It's on HBO, but is it on? I don't know if it's on Netflix now. I thought I saw it somewhere else that wasn't.
On HBO Max.
Yeah. So we'll watch either one of those. But yeah, feel free, please share our channel. We love it. We love all the support you guys have given us. It's been great. And now that we're like getting all this professional equipment, so everyone can hear us, and I don't lose my mind over audio, then it's been. Hopefully, you guys enjoy the sound and audio as much as we do now. So thank you guys
and our amazing decorations.
I will let Cory decorate. We'll get rid of the top. I mean, Cory does decorate. I give him a color scheme and he goes with it. So we really do work well together that way. But okay, we will see you guys. I will schedule another live, so watch for that when it comes up. And thanks everybody for being here.
Thanks guys. Love you guys.